topic is going to be brought to you by the Enigma.
Yes, the Enigma.
Why don't you share us
or Buzz Lightyear?
Share your topic with us.
Okay, so we just went through a big holiday here, and I just kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion on, I had some nieces and nephews and everything, so what age do you think is a good age to tell a child, like, Santa is not real and all those other, fictional, holiday
28.
28? Yeah.
Does right now count? Like if you just learned this.
Boom.
Right.
All the 5-year-olds watching our show are going to have their dreams shattered.
Yeah.
God, I hope
Yeah,
they're not
that
watching
was-
the show. Shame
Like
on you
hopefully
parents.
not. We don't do any
filtering
beeps over
this.
this stuff.
No, they
Yeah.
got their grandpa's iPad, and they're like, "Oh, yay! What are you watching?"
Maelstrom.
Hey, and that's happened, guys. Okay, because like my kid will start off with Play-Dohs and end up somewhere I didn't even know existed on YouTube, and you're like, "What are you doing? Get off of that!"
When that happens,
I'm not supposed to watch that guy's podcast.
The internet's scary, yeah.
They're going to go on YouTube and say Justin Bieber, and then they're going to get to us somehow because of our last.
Oh, that's
Well,
true.
oh, that's true.
I think that it will happen organically, so I don't know if there ever has to be a conversation with them, because eventually, obviously, I pieced it together and started sneaking around my parents' closet and saw all the presents that were going to be there for Christmas, and I was like,
And then they were labeled as from Santa, and you're like,
Yeah.
"No, I saw that in your closet, homie."
yeah, exactly.
So what time did that kind of happen for you, though?
I want to say 1st to 3rd grade,
Yeah, and you're what? You're probably
6 to 9 or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, you're 7 to 7 and 9. Yeah.
yeah,
So you're in kindergarten. You're 5. First, you're
Okay.
like 6 in that area.
Yeah, 7,
yeah. I would say between there, yeah, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to say, I think I was around 3rd grade when 2nd or 3rd grade when somebody at school was saying Santa's not real, Santa's not real, and it was like, wait,
So
no,
there's that one kid who's got to ruin it for
Yeah.
everyone, right?
Yeah, it's definitely at school. It's not
And-
your parents.
Right.
Well, then you have to go ask your parents. You got to go.
I was
hey.
gonna say, I can.
No, it was like an unspoken bond.
I'll let you guys go
unspoken
through it first.
rules.
Am I the only? Well, Steven's a parent too here, so I mean, I'll
He
let you
gets
guys.
back. You can ask him.
I'll tell you guys mine at the end of what I do with my kid.
Well, so what happened with me is that I had older siblings, and literally, like, I was probably 5 years old. My brother's like, Santa's not real, and
Yeah.
he's like, I was like,
Dude.
no, you're wrong. And he goes, come here, watch. And he showed me the presents, and then my parents are bringing the presents out to the tree. We poked around the corner. I see them hauling all these presents out.
Yeah.
Like,
Wait.
it just crushed my world.
At what night? This is Christmas Eve. He's telling you this?
Yeah. He woke me up and he goes, here, come here, look. And I looked around.
Oh wow!
Dick.
What a
Here, come here.
Son
Look.
Son of a
splash
bitch.
of cold water.
Yeah. So what was your reaction then? What did that feel like? Were you emotionally,
That's so
mentally
sad.
prepared for that? Like,
I wasn't. And then
Spoiler.
I have a little sister, of course, so then I'm telling her.
oh,
That,
She
so
doesn't even get to enjoy it for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's took it out.
the
Well,
magic's
here.
gone,
oh,
man.
Yeah, so it,
The magic. You guys. The magic. Oh,
That's
gosh.
kind of how it was spoiled for me. And then I said something to my parents, and they tried to string it out for a few years. But then I still to this day though, my mom will wrap a present under the tree, say to me from Santa, and I'm
Yeah.
Oh
30.
yeah. Same.
I'm 30.
Yeah.
My parents do that one too.
Yeah.
They do. What about you, Matt?
I don't remember it. I mean, I'm sure there was a moment.
But what would you guys think though? Like, would be the appropriate time for that message to
Yeah.
a child?
I think it does. It's not up to you. I think the kids at school are gonna break that. It may be up to you on like how you react to it. If you try and like backpedal and say like, no, it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Those,
Then you
those
can get
bullies
fun.
at school are lying.
I do remember trying to defend it. I was like, no, there's this, my mom and grandma, they saw him, they heard something on the roof, I'm telling you. And then the kids were like,
So did I.
this kid over here.
I did too.
That
but,
didn't do
like,
anything for me socially wise.
No. I did too because like we would make cookies every year and they would come back and the cookies and the carrots were like chomped on but not fully eaten. So it was
It's
kind of
a
like
dog.
just played. No, it just played more into it, And I had came to my parents at one point. I was like I said, 2nd or 3rd grade. I can't really exactly remember when it was, but I was like, hey, I'm getting told that this isn't real. What's going on here? And they kept perpetuating it. They're like, no,
Oh,
it
they
is,
did?
it is. Yeah, my parents did
Ooh.
at least. So
So you
I
ready to
would
start
say-
doing that for your own kids?
I'm gonna tell you guys. You guys probably all gonna disagree, but my child already knows that Santa's not real.
Okay.
He's 4 years old, or about to be 5 years old. He knows Santa's not real. But you guys have to think about this. Children don't need adult. This is an adult thing. They don't need this whole story to make it magical and this. They live in a magical world as it is. Their imagination's constantly running. They don't need some adult story to make it magical. In fact, we tell him, Santa's not real, but Santa's a story that we love to tell and we love to play a part of, and it's all about giving. It's all about this, and he's totally cool with it. He loves it, and he makes stories up it. Like, let's make a story about Santa. Okay, Santa does this. He's on the roof, and then he puts the things in there, and he gives a toy to his cousin, and then he gives the dog a thing, and this and that, and it's cool for him. He loves that. And it hasn't taken anything away from him or the experience of Christmas whatsoever. But I'm not gonna honestly, it's still a lie at the end of the day. I'm not gonna sit there and tell my kid something that's gonna because for me it felt like hurtful in a way. I was like, wait, you guys knew this was a lie and you guys just lied to me? Like, and you tell me not to lie? Like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's like the first moment
well,
where
it's a white lie.
realize your parents have been
No, white lie, whatever, dude. It's like,
what about exploiting it so that you get cookies, for a few Christmases? Make sure you leave cookies out.
Yeah, big cookies for Santa.
It's like, it's not we're gonna take anything away. We're just gonna let him know it's not real. So it's like we're still do the Christmas tree. We'll do the cookies. We'll do the stories. We'll do all the different stuff, and he loves it. He's all about it. He has no problem with it. This is an adult thing. It's not a kid thing. Because like kids have no problems with it at all. Like I said, he's an imagination dude. He's got.
As long as he gets presents.
Power Rangers with invisible shit. He doesn't need some made up story about a Santa Claus, to make his life that much better or to give hope to this crazy ass world. It's like, no, man.
Do you think parents look at it maybe a little bit more selfishly? They like the reaction that the kid gets from thinking that Santa did come and he gets over presents.
I do. I think it is an adult thing. I really do. Like now being a parent and seeing it from a different perspective. I think it's an adult situation. It's almost a selfish situation. It's like you want to keep telling him this thing just because of whatever it is you get out of it, right. And it does break down the kid at some point. Like we all can have kind of that specific memory of like, oh man, that happened because it was significant enough. My kid's not gonna have that, because it was never that for him. It was something different. And it's like we're not gonna make it about Santa giving the presents and all this and that. We're gonna make it about, you giving and you doing this and changing that tradition, because we have to look at traditions, and sometimes they're not always necessary anymore. And like we can give it a better meaning, like instead of cutting down a tree and we'll put a fake tree up and go plant a tree. We'll go give instead of receive and show the importance of giving instead of receiving.
I like that a lot.
And you be the Santa Claus and you give the gifts to the kids, and it loves it. And we ask him, hey, who's Santa Claus when you go sit on his lap? He's an actor. He knows it, but he has just as much fun getting on his lap and telling him what he wants for gifts and doing the whole thing. It didn't ruin it at all for him. So it's just a different perspective.
What if he tells his peers,
That's the only thing. So what we don't want him to ruin it for other kids that are still being perpetuated that story. So we tell him, he understands this because he's had a little argument. My kid's a critical thinker. Without us even having to tell him, he could tell us that Santa wasn't real, honestly, by breaking down the story and being like, no, I'm fine.
Like,
I'm
nah,
4.5.
he can't fit through this shit.
He's like, that's not, there's no way. Nobody
the
flies.
diameter and angle at which he would have to come in.
He'd be like, no, reindeers don't fly. I've seen them.
Yeah.
No, they walk on the ground, dude. Nobody fits in a chimney. Like, it doesn't work.
So Rocco, so you bred an asshole.
Say what? No, he's not. He's just he's a person that's gonna lead the future of the world, man. The ones that think for themselves and don't just be told what to do and blindly follow.
Yeah.
No, he's honestly, when it comes to that, he's already had discussions of Spider-Man. He had an argument with a kid because I guess this kid's mom told him that Spider-Man was real and was really real, and he argued Spider-Man's real, and he's like, no, Spider-Man's not real. Spider-Man's a superhero and this and that, but he's not real. He had this discussion. So what we were trying to do with him, what the Christmas thing is, just let him know that there's others that believe in it, and we like the story, and we're going to go along with the story, but we're not going to go and tell them that is not real kind of deal. We're just gonna say, just perpetuate the story, I guess, in whatever way. Like, yeah, Santa Claus, yeah, gives gifts, whatever. And he's cool with that. He doesn't have a problem with it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a different perspective. It's a different take, but me and my wife had sat down to take some time to think this one through about what we want to do with holidays, because we're secular and we want to do secular kind of. We want to give a new meaning to different holidays that we still do in this world,
That's great.
and still haven't been able to enjoy them and be a part of them, but in a different way.
I like that.
Cool.
So
What's your reaction? Like, I had my 6-year-old niece come running up to me. I walked into their house and she goes, "Santa's not real," and I'm like. And her little brother, who's 4, is standing there, and he thinks it. And she goes, "Someone at school told me he's not real." And that's the first thing that that they said to me. I'm like, "Well, how do I say anything here?"
I
like,
think I would take her into the other room, and
Just
no, that's not really. That's not your. It's not your place, to be truthful. It's it's your brother or your sister's place.
Talk to your mom.
If it was your kid, it's different.
I think that was my response.
If it was your kid, I would say if you're perpetuating the story, then take your daughter to another room and explain it when your son's not around.
I should have just told my niece crying.
No, you just say, yeah, he's an actor in your story. And honestly, I'm telling you, some kids, like, if they have it going on and on and on and on and on, yeah, they will cry. They will be upset because they thought it was real. Right. But if they don't, it's just the same as a superhero, and you love to be him and you love to act like him and you love to be a part of the story, My son knows Hulk's not real, but he wants to be Hulk every day, and he loves the idea of Hulk, So it's just something different.
Steve, do you have any more thoughts on that, considering the fact that you also have kids?
Oh no, the girls
who are older, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the girls were fine. They were never like, "Oh, you lied to me," this and that. They kind of got on their own. "Oh, they said it wasn't real," this and that. Kira, for a couple more years, believed the tooth fairy was real. But I mean, you're just getting around. They don't really care as long as they get stuff like, "Oh, I'm still gonna get money," right? You know what I mean? It's like,
So what you're saying is Santa's not real. Yeah. Okay, but do I still get presents?
Yeah.
Nope, that's the end of it.
Yeah, that's the other
Once
thing.
you find out, it's over.
I just remember Santa's gifts were getting lower and lower every year. It said from Santa, and we put one gift from Santa over the years, because I'm like, why the hell does he get all the credit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thank you, Santa. I'm like, no, that was me. That was
I fucking worked. CVS for that shit.
We do all the best gifts from us and the clothes and stuff from Santa or something like that. You know what I mean?
Give a piece of charcoal from him, just Santa's
like that.
Really rude.
You're Santa's a dick.
Is there anything else that we could you guys have opinions on in when to and when not to tell a kid a certain thing? I mean, you could talk about the birds and the bees at a certain point.
No. So check this one out. This one was I gotta tell you about that. This one was a little difficult for us, and here's a little word of advice for you guys. You have children coming up. Yeah, the death. Okay, Ooh. Death is a difficult one. That's a very difficult one. So we had a dog that we had to put down because he was shot because he went to a chicken coop on a farm, and the farmer shot at him, and he pretty much blew off his leg, and we had to put him down.
Dude.
Yeah. Well, he's eating their chickens and stuff, and that was honestly what happens on farms.
When you do that, yeah.
Happens on farms, bro. And
what farm life, bro?
Hashtag farm life.
Yeah.
Hashtag farm life. You're
new meaning to
their
farm,
chickens,
bro.
and they're gonna take your dog out. So
who was doing that?
It was my brother-in-law's dog.
Rivers.
So we had to kind of figure out what we were going to do there. And, I feel like we go about things the best that we can at the time. You know what I mean? And I can't exactly fully remember how we explained it because we don't really believe in an afterlife kind of deal. There's some beliefs that I personally have, but it's their beliefs. So that doesn't mean fact at all. So when we went to go to explain it to him, it was just saying it's no longer there kind of deal. Just the dog's no longer there. The dog's passed away. And he, like I said, is a critical thinker and doesn't stop there. It's well, what do you mean? Well, what is this? Well, what is that? And why? And this and that. And then you're like, damn, holy shit, we're getting really deep. How do we kind of explain this? He had a stress. So kids sometimes will have this, when they develop heavy stresses, And it could have just been from the dog no longer being around, and not just the death idea, because he didn't relate it to us. You know, it wasn't like, oh, well, you guys gonna do? Are you guys gonna die at some point? It wasn't any of that. It was just the non-existence of the dog. He started to get the eye twitches. Like kids will, you know, they'll translate their stress in different ways, and he was just, you know, talking to us, and it was, you know, do this one, you know, and it was just, it's his body's way of trying to deal with the stress that he was going through. So it was difficult because he was 4 when that happened, and it's like, well, how do you explain the situation the best that you can? And that's a really rough one, because they can easily translate to their family, you know, like, well, what about you guys? And you know, if that happens, it's like I can't imagine the anxiety that the child would feel, and they can't think logically and rationally. So it's not like they can put it into. Sorry, by the way, it's not like they can put it into like, you know, like an adult can think about it and be like, okay, you know, that's a possibility, but this and this and that. A child just thinks, like, they absorb it, and you don't know how they're going to accept it. You don't know how it's going to be translated as like an understanding for them as a reality in the world.
And how
you know,
relates to other things that they view and think.
You know, and that one's that one's a difficult one. That was got to be one of the hardest ones, I'd say. Screw the Santa idea, screw the Easter Bunny and all the other things about death. That's a difficult one. You know, explaining that one.
Do you? I mean,
dude, I got a more difficult one for you.
Or I guess the birds and bees would probably be. For my daughter, I feel like that story is going to be a little harder for my daughter than it's going to be for my son, and that's just like.
That's the thing. I hear Bill and Kira talking about, because, like, dude, I don't remember you guys. We had health class. We had health class in school,
Birds and the
right?
Bees?
Yeah. Well, you know, health class, right? Okay. Yeah, we watched a video. I remember particularly on pregnancy, and you watched birth, pretty much, right? Okay, but like there. You guys never saw that? You guys never saw the birth video?
I didn't watch the birth video, but I did watch, like,
I watched the birth video, but I also
and the sperm and like the vagina, and you're like.
It also explained how that happens, and it talked about like pre.
Yeah, well, they're like
grade,
you hear Bella and Kira, and okay, Kira's like, you know, 11, Bella's 13, and you hear them talking about it, like, yeah, we watched the birth video, and now tomorrow we're gonna be watching on how to use a condom and this and that and like that. I'm like, what? I'm like, you guys are like,
what?
like, really? Like, is that? And they're watching a video, and I'm like, okay, so how detailed is this video? Like, are you guys supposed to be watching this? Like, and I'm like, I turn to Amber, I'm like, do you know about this?
But one thing though,
and they're like talking about like no shot. But the thing is, it's like, I guess because nowadays, like, it's younger and younger.
Not even nowadays, dude. Like, it's not something I'm like stoked about, but I lost my virginity when I was 14 years old. So it's like, it happens at a young age sometimes, and especially nowadays. It's like, I'd rather there be less ignorant to the idea of what happens than I would so rather that, but I would want to have that conversation myself with them. You know, like, hey, put that
on my watch.
Sorry, man.
I mean, the more taboo you make it, though, the more they want to do it.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know?
So,
like, the more educated they are, they'll be like, well, maybe I don't need to do this right now because look at this fucking demon that can pop out of my vagina, you know? So.
Yeah, honestly, like, education, I feel, is like, it's super key to helping children make the better decisions in life. You know, you explain to them about pregnancy can happen. Do you want to be responsible for a child? Do you want to? There is possibilities of things called STDs, which can affect your life in a very harmful way, hurt you, whatever. And, you know, you can demonize it a bit right now, whatever way you want to.
And there's a reason why there's condoms being given out for free at the nurse's office at school, right? Like, I mean, they've realized that, like, if you're going to do it, which you're going to do, it's inevitable. You can't, like, your palms will get hairy. Like, you can't do that, right? Like, it just doesn't work. And so the way the tactic that they found that does work is like, look, embrace it, and if you're going to do it, at least be safe about it.
And honestly, so like you were talking about not underneath my supervision, it's like none of that ever happened underneath a parent's supervision, bro. Like, it always happens whenever there's like, they got that half a second to be able to get away. And
they don't go anywhere.
Well, then there you go. That's probably a better. Just keep them in the house.
Get back in your cage.
They're not going anywhere.
Oh gosh. What about you guys? What kind of like conversation are you guys? So Clay, you're about to be a parent. What conversation are you a bit nervous about possibly ever having to have with your child?
Well, when he comes out, I mean, you know, I gotta tell him Santa's not real. You know what I mean?
Immediately.
Day 3.
You're not the first day.
That's
Day 3.
like, damn.
This thing goes in that thing, and that's how you have a baby. I mean, I gotta do that. No, I don't know. I haven't really thought that far ahead. I think it's more about what Sarah and I tell each other at this point of like how can we, we got to cope through this change, this lifestyle change. I haven't thought too far ahead. I think you have a really great idea behind your Santa discussion. I really like that. I really like your thought process through thinking about traditions and how you can shape them to a more modern way. Birds and the Bees, I was told about it when I was like 4. Like, my mom's a nurse, so she sat me down with a book and was like, these are ovaries, this is a vagina, this is a penis, this is what happens, it goes like this. And I was like, okay.
I'm trying to eat a Pop-Tart here.
Yeah. And then she also, Mom, I'm trying to watch cartoons.
Come on.
Watch cartoons.
And that conversation could come up a little earlier because, like, here's an example. We had LJ first, and then Mahala came around, and he's asking, how do you have a baby? How did this baby even come around? Where's it how is it getting out of your belly, Ma? Is it coming out of your mouth? What happens here? And they might start asking questions at an early age. And not that we go into the birds and bees discussions, but it might be like, hey, let's kind of explain. Let's give you some building blocks right now. Later on, I'll give you the details, just so you kind of have at least something that you can hold on to for an understanding, but not go, tell you, hey, this is the action that mommy and daddy took to make that happen.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to have those conversations and to sit down and actually discuss them and dig deep into his thought process and answer any question he has and go into any detail, like not any detail, but like just be there for him and talk about things like. So.
Honestly, I enjoy those because
I'm looking forward.
Those are big things about that are going to affect how this world works, And it's like if you can help, you got to be very cautious because we can be biased with our own opinions and beliefs. Right. You got to be careful. Like, do you want to establish that in your child? Some people are like, indoctrinate the shit out of the kid. For me, I want to raise a free thinker. Mm-hmm. So anytime I ever try to explain something, I try to probe him with some questions first to get him to try to think about what he thinks happens, and then try to give him the scientific information we know as factual. Like, hey, okay, like you said, your mom sat you down, she's a nurse, and said, this is, the vagina, this is the penis, this is the ovaries, this is the kind of thing. We haven't done it that deep, but we have gone into the anatomy of the body because he's asked questions about, like, muscles, bones, all these different things, and had shown him all these different parts, Yeah. But
okay, Rocco. So how did that conversation go? Here's your son. Where do babies come from, Daddy?
Well, just said that mommy. He just said that pretty much. It was like mommy and daddy have to work together to make a baby. The baby and we didn't say wrestle. We said that we have to work together. It takes daddy and it takes mommy both to be able to make a baby. The baby stays inside of mommy's belly for 9 months, and then out of mommy's private parts is where the baby comes from. And he was totally cool with that. That made sense to him. He was like, "Oh, cool. All right. Okay, cool."
Do you take the opportunity to let him know, to be like, because I feel like in that moment, I might be wrong, but this is my gut reaction. Is like, okay, I want to tell him that, but the message that I want to kind of bring across is also like, when they feel responsible enough and they both agreed, that's when they will make it. Because I would
sign the contract.
And you know what? Yes, and I hope that we represent that as, in our relationship as it is. He can see that in our relationship without me having to say that to him. He can see how mommy and daddy treat each other. He's going to look for that in life. That's something that we're trying to instill deeply because, how many of us have all been through relationships and different things where, like, it's all jokes and different stuff, and they really trying to, and then even you settle down for a little bit and you're like, why am I still with this person?
Hey,
Ron, did that though, pretty much. Like, Rocco told me a story one time, I guess, where he's in the car, and didn't he say to you, he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be a father.
Yeah, he did.
He said, not until I found the right girl. That's what he said.
Dude, I'm not even kidding. Like, and that's not something we said to him. It's not something we say to him, but. And he says this all the time. He just told me the other day. He's like, I can't wait. Actually, today, he's like, I'm going to be a daddy. I was like, well, you're going to, he's like, what did he say? He didn't say something about the woman, but he just said he was going to be a daddy. He was going to be a good daddy. Because I was talking to him about, giving. I was like, son, whenever you receive, one person feels joy there. You're feeling joy. You're feeling happiness. But whenever you give, you feel really good, and so does the person that you give to. So two people feel good. I was like, and he's like, yeah. He's like, I want to give love to the bad guys. I want to give love to the, he goes, what about if you're lonely and you give love? I was like, well, then it'll make that loneliness go away. And he's like, well, what about if you're bad and you give love? I was like, well, then sometimes you might be a little bit happier. And he's like, well, what about sad? He's like, well, what if you're happy? He's like, you'll get happier? I was like, yeah. So he's just like, he's understanding his own things in his own way, and you gotta, the kid is, you got to see where their mental development is at to be able to have that conversation. If my child was like, and then I'd be like, well, probably not going to have that conversation right now. You're going to need to grow up a little bit, before I can talk to you.
Say words. Awesome.